feet of our spiritual master are the only way by which we can attain pure devotional service. I bow to his lotus feet with great awe and reverence. By his grace, one can cross the ocean of material suffering and obtain the mercy of Krishna. Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chitte Koreya Parana Kore Ho Mane Asa Shri Guru Charane Rati Aise Uttama Gati Prasad Pure Saza Asa. My only wish is to have my consciousness purified by the words emanating from his lotus mouth. Attachment to his lotus feet is the perfection that fulfills all desires. Chakudana Dilo Jai Janme Janme Prabhu Se Devya Gyan Hriday Prakashito Prema Bhakti Jaha Hoite Avidya Vinasha Jate Vedegai Jaracharito. He opens my darkened eyes and fills my heart with transcendental knowledge. He is my Lord birth after birth. From him, ecstatic prema emanates. By him, ignorance is destroyed. The Vedic scriptures sing of his character. Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu Adhama Janara Bandhu Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu Adhama Janara Bandhu Lokena Lokera Jivana Lokera Jivana Kaha Prabhu Koro Doya Deho More Padashaya Prabhu Koro Daya Deho More Padashaya Baby just Kusakti Bhuvana Baby just Kusakti Bhuvana. O spiritual master, ocean of mercy and friend of the fallen souls, you are the teacher of everyone and the life of all people. O Master, be merciful unto me and give me the shade of your lotus feet. May your glories now be proclaimed throughout the three worlds. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama.
नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिन इति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. I welcome all of you on this day 2 of Srila Prabhupada Lila, a month-long web series dedicated to understanding the wonderful pastimes of Srila Prabhupada, the founder Acharya of the worldwide Hare Krishna movement. So it is mentioned in the Vedas, यथा कांचनताम याति कांस्यम रस विधानतः तथा दीक्षा विधानेन द्विजत्वम जायते नृणाम. As we discussed yesterday, everybody has got biological birth, all the species, even animals. But human form of life, civilized form of life, they have prerogative that they can take a second birth, and that is called dvija. First birth happens by parents, and that is not sufficient to solve the problems of life. In order to solve the problems of life for good, a person is supposed to have second birth, and that is given by spiritual master. Spiritual master is father, and the Vedas are mother. Simply mother cannot give birth, and father takes the help of mother to give birth. In a similar fashion, simply by reading Vedas, a person cannot take spiritual birth, but that is put into effect by the potency of the spiritual master, who acts as spiritual father. And in this manner, with the help of spiritual master and Vedas, the spiritual life of a human being develops, and is able to cross over this process of repeated birth, death, nescience. So let us understand how Srila Prabhupada met with his spiritual master. Often throughout his life, Srila Prabhupada would feelingly recall his first meeting in 1922 with his spiritual master, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. At first, Abhay didn't want to meet him, having been unimpressed by the so-called sadhus who used to visit his father's house. But a friend of Abhay's had insisted, escorting him to the quarters of the Gaudiya Mutt, where they were brought onto the roof into the presence of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati. So Srila Prabhupada's friend Narendranath Malik was very insistent. This nice sadhu has come in the town, and some of the Maliks they had visited, and they were very much impressed. So he told, you also please come and let us know what is your opinion of him. But Srila Prabhupada was not very much impressed by all the sadhus his father had been receiving, very, very respectfully, being a pious man. But nevertheless, Prabhupada was not impressed. None of them displayed very sound knowledge of the Vedic philosophy, Lord Chaitanya's philosophy, or even proper moral standards at times. So Prabhupada told he should be another sadhu of the kind and was not willing to go. But somehow his friend pushed him and escorted him into the quarters of Gaudiya Matha temple. And they were escorted to the roof where they met his spiritual master, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati. No sooner did Abhay and his friend respectfully bow before the saintly person and prepared to sit, than he said to them, you are educated young men. Why don't you preach Lord Chaitanya's message throughout the whole world? Abhay was very surprised that the sadhu had immediately asked them to become preachers on his behalf. Impressed by Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, he wanted to test him with intelligent inquiries. Abhay was dressed in white khadi cloth, which at that time in India proclaimed one to be a supporter of Gandhi's cause for political emancipation. In the spirit of Indian nationalism, therefore, Abhay inquired, who will hear your Chaitanya's message? We are a dependent country. First India must be First India must become independent. How can we spread India's culture if we are under British rule? Srila Bhakti Siddhant replied that Krishna consciousness didn't have to wait for a change in Indian politics, nor was it dependent on who ruled. Krishna consciousness was so important that it could not wait. Abhay was struck by his boldness. India being a subjugated country, here is a person who is totally against the mood of the nation. He is telling you, preach this message rather than work for independence of the nation. And this Krishna consciousness, he told him, as an urgent requirement which cannot wait for the change of the rules or political systems. Abhay was struck by his boldness. The whole of India was in turmoil and seemed to support what Abhay had said. Many famous leaders of Bengal, many saints, even Gandhi himself, men who were educated and spiritually minded, all might well have asked the same question, challenging this sadhu's relevance. What is your relevance, sir? What you are talking, does it make any sense? But Srila Bhakti Siddhant contended, all governments were temporary. The eternal reality was Krishna consciousness, and the real self was the spirit soul. No man-made political system could help humanity. This was the verdict of the Vedic scriptures and the line of spiritual masters. Real public welfare work, he said, should go beyond concerns of the temporary and prepare a person for his next life and his eternal relationship with the Supreme. So this is very important. So people who are not aware of the first concept of the spiritual life, how much ever they may exhibit their smartness and other skills to solve the problems of life, they are ultimately rendered unsuccessful. Srila Prabhupada explains, if you make a mistake in the first equation, then you can solve a math problem for 1 or 2 pages very, very elaborately with perfection. But because there is a mistake in the first equation itself, what you get is a complete zero. No marks for that attempt. In a similar fashion, there is mistake in the first level itself, and the mistake is I am this body. So when a person is not able to understand that I am different from body, and they are all calculations and concepts of happiness start with the understanding that I am this material body, then whatever they can build, that is of no use. We are eternal. Suppose the government changes and you have a very nice rule on this planet, you may take birth on some other place, some other country which is subjugated, or you may go to some other planets. When Parikshit Maharaj heard how he was hearing the description of various planets of the universe, how there are planets, the hellish planets, where so much suffering is given to the living entities, sinful living entities. He became very much concerned what we can do to save them. So you prepare very nicely the government over here, and that poor person leaves the body and he goes to a hellish planet. What would you do over there? So these people do not understand that we are eternal. We are traveling in a train coach. We spend all our money and time, efforts to decorate the coach. It is but foolishness. That is why the topmost people of Vedic wisdom, the Brahmanas, they would live a life of just somehow maintaining body and soul together, satisfying the bare minimum necessities, simple living and high thinking. This should be the motto of life. Because we are temporary, we are very much engrossed in decorating, in becoming famous, becoming wealthy in this temporary world. We leave this entire system, everything collapses. Just like small kids, they make sand castles on the beach, and when the parents order, come, let us go, then they have to go. They have to dismantle, or the waves of the ocean would come dismantle that palace. They would have spent many hours building. So thus, Human life is meant for simple living and high thinking, and Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj stressed this very important point. However, people who are wise, just like in the history we see, India was under Mughal rule, and different people of different faiths, they ruled this country. And 500 years ago especially, that time also India was under subjugation. But Lord Mahavishnu himself, who came as Advaitacharya and other devotees, they did not try to start some political upheaval movement. But Advaitacharya simply, he offered his heartfelt prayers to Lord Krishna to descend, and he was completely convinced when Lord Krishna comes here, then everything is set in place. If Lord Ramchandra comes, Ram Rajya is the natural conclusion. So if you invite Krishna, then automatically entire place becomes Vaikuntha or Vrindavan, the place where there is no anxiety. So Haridas Thakur, he simply chanted the names of Krishna. And Advaitacharya also simply worshipped Shaligram Shila, offered tulsi leaves and Ganges water. And by this endeavor, Lord Krishna descended as Lord Chaitanya and delivered the entire universe. What to speak of solving the temporary rulership of a small nation, but all the living entities of the universe were delivered by such an attempt. Similarly, the sages of Naimisharanya, they also organized a yajna for public welfare. And that yajna, what did they do? They discussed Srimad Bhagavatam. So those people who are wise, they simply engage in the devotional service of Krishna, and they understand if we call Krishna here. So how can we call Krishna? Wherever there are discourses about Krishna, Krishna is present here. Yat gayanti mad bhakta tatra tishtami narada. So simply if we engage ourselves in chanting and hearing Krishna's name, Krishna is personally present. And wherever Krishna is personally present, that place is Vaikuntha. There is no anxiety at all. This is the way of solving all the problems of life. And this is what Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj explained Srila Prabhupada. Abhay had already concluded that this was certainly not just another dubious sadhu, and he listened attentively to the arguments of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta and found himself gradually becoming convinced. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati quoted Sanskrit verses from Bhagavad Gita, wherein Lord Krishna declares that a person should give up all other religious duties and surrender unto him, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Abhay had never forgotten Lord Krishna and his teachings in Bhagavad Gita, and his family had always worshipped Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, whose mission Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati was espousing. But he was astounded to hear those teachings presented so masterfully. Abhay felt defeated in argument, but he liked it. When the discussion was completed after 2 hours, he and his friend walked down the stairs and onto the street. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta's explanation of the independence movement as a temporary, incomplete cause had made a deep impression on Abhay. He felt himself less a nationalist and more a follower of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. He also thought it would have been better if he were not married. This great personality was asking him to preach. He could have immediately joined, but to leave his family he felt would be an injustice. So Prabhupada thought, he was wishing he was not married at that time. He could have joined immediately. He is wonderful, Abhay told his friend. The message of Lord Chaitanya is in the hands of a very expert person. Srila Prabhupada would later recall that on that very night, he had actually accepted Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati as his spiritual master. Not officially, Prabhupada said, but in my heart, I was thinking that I had met a very nice, saintly person. So then, after that, Prabhupada was always keeping Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj in his heart and always thinking, I met a very nice, saintly person. But for business purposes, Abhay and his wife and the family moved to Allahabad. So Srila Prabhupada initially started his work as a manager in Dr. Bose's laboratory. And later Prabhupada tried to develop his own business and moved to Prayagraj or Allahabad. And there Prabhupada started Prayag Pharmacy, his own small industry, chemical business. And Prabhupada was doing very well. And somebody told him that he can become one of the wealthiest person of the nation. And his business was doing very, very well. And because of the business commitments, Prabhupada was very far from Calcutta where he met his spiritual master. But he was always thinking that he was a very nice person. When will I meet him again? And then there was this Kumbh Mela, and all the devotees of Gaudiya Math had come there, and they had a plans of starting a Gaudiya Math in Allahabad, and they were asking people, trying to muster some help. So somebody guided him. So this Abhay Babu is here. He is very religious man. You please go to him. He will definitely help you. And these sannyasis of Gaudiya Math, they eventually met Srila Prabhupada, who was known as Abhay Charan at that time. And Abhay was very much glad to see the same sannyasis he had met long time back. And he was very glad, I am very fortunate to have their association again. And he received and he tried to extend all help. And he became very happy. Now I'm there in their association again. And he started frequenting the Gaudiya Math. But still he was not able to meet his spiritual master unless a very nice parikrama was organized. And at this time, when Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he took around 40-50 sannyasis and hundreds and thousands of other devotees with him. And it was extraordinary parikrama that Vrindavan had ever witnessed. So they were camping in Vrindavan, and entire day they would visit various places, and very expertly it was managed. So when the entire group is visiting various places of Vrindavan, then one group of devotees, they would shift entire tents to the next spot where they were going to rest. In this way, they would shift camps, and there were so many lights and such wonderful arrangement. It appeared like a mini city. And in the evening, Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj would speak, and all the people would just come to see them and hear Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj speaking. But Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj was not very much welcome when he went there, because casteism had taken its deep roots in India. And people were telling those people who are affiliated to or born in Brahmin family only have right to become Brahmin and thus advance in spiritual life. But this is not the version of the Vedas. Just like engineer, doctor is not by caste but by qualification and action. In a similar fashion, it is by qualification and activities that a person is recognized as Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra or otherwise. So Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj quoted, Narad Muni has spoken in Srimad Bhagavatam, Yasya yal lakshanam proktam punso varnavi vanjakam. Even though a person is having some symptoms, he might not be born in that proper family, still he can be trained to act in the capacity of Brahman, Vaishya, Kshatriya, as a Dvija. And he quoted various other references also. However, people were so very much biased. The 7 most prominent temples of Vrindavan, the oldest temples established by the Goswamis, they also shut their doors when they would try to visit those temples. And the shopkeepers would shut their shops when the entourage would pass, and some people, they even threw stones upon the pilgrims. But Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj was very bold, and he was called Lion Guru. He never ever compromised. And thus some people even tried to kill Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And they wanted to bribe local police inspector that we have plans to kill him, you do not do anything. So the police inspector informed Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj that we take bribe but never for this reason, never for sadhus like that. So please take care of yourself, they are planning to take your life. So Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj was uncompromising. And Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj, nevertheless, he was very bold. Let the temples not welcome. They finished, they continued with their parikrama. And when they were in a spot called Kosi, next day, Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj was going to leave the place, and then Prabhupada planned that maybe this is the right time. Prabhupada calculated that I can visit and have some concluding darshans on this parikrama. So Prabhupada reached the spot, and there was an announcement that tomorrow Guru Maharaj is leaving. So now we are all going to have darshan of Sheshashai. So those who wish can come for darshan, and also Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj would speak. Those who wish can stay back to hear him. So pilgrimage is a very rare thing. So all pilgrims were very eager to visit the spot. So most of them, almost everybody, they left for having darshan of Sheshashai. But Srila Prabhupada thought, what will I have darshan? What will I do by that? But let me hear my Guru Maharaj. And Srila Prabhupada stayed back only with a handful of disciples, around 10 to 12 people, most of them sannyasis, very intimate associates of Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj, they were there. And Srila Prabhupada was none of the intimate circle of devotees. He was not even initiated, but he was very glad. After a long time, he was again seeing his Guru Maharaj. And he was speaking mostly in Bengali. Sometimes he was quoting some verses in Sanskrit and some Bengali verses and some English in between. And Prabhupada, he was hearing with rapt attention. And Prabhupada would later recall, although I was not able to understand what my Guru Maharaj was speaking, he was speaking from a very high platform. Nevertheless, I was very much attracted to hearing him. And Prabhupada was hearing with rapt attention. And 2 hours went by. And some of the other disciples, they requested to carry on because they had some services to continue the pilgrimage. And they also took excuse and they went. But Prabhupada kept on sitting there. And that lecture went on for many hours. And Prabhupada did not move. Finally, Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj got up and he left the place. And Prabhupada was completely surcharged with the spiritual potency of his spiritual master. And this quality Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj noticed, and we will see how he recognized Abhay Charan for this wonderful hearing capacity. And then finally, it was there in 1932 that he received initiation and became a disciple of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. So Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj, as is the culture now also, he would first give Harinam Diksha. Spiritual master gives holy name. Simply by chanting Hare Krishna mantra without taking shelter of spiritual master, there is no spiritual success. So the spiritual sound should be handed down by spiritual authorities. So the holy name is given to disciple, and when the disciple purifies himself, then he is given second initiation, which is called Brahman Diksha. And Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj would test the disciples after giving Harinam Diksha. When they are qualified, second Diksha would be given. But Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj, when one of his sannyasi disciples were introducing various prospective disciples to him who are going to get initiated the other day, and when he brought Abhay Charan to Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur, he immediately recognized, oh yes, I know him. He hears very nicely. He does not go away. And Prabhupada was very glad. And others were wondering, this person has hardly met him. How did Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj know that this person hears nicely? How is making such comments? So he had noted it. And Prabhupada, although he was following the rules and regulations very strictly, but nevertheless he thought it's the right time to take Diksha. Without Diksha, there is no spiritual life. He told his wife also to do that, but wife was happy. Wife did not object for Diksha. That was the tradition. Although Prabhupada had a Diksha by a professional guru in his childhood, but that Diksha is of no use. Sometimes many families in our country still they go for Diksha. They have family affiliation with some guru. So that kind of Diksha is of no use. The gurus want to have some formal disciples so that some donations can come and they can maintain their living by these transcendental arrangements. So that kind of Diksha is of no use. Diksha means spiritual master takes charge of the disciple. He takes all sinful activities, past and future, if he commits upon himself. And he takes charge, I will take you back to Godhead. And spiritual master has to at times suffer for the wrongdoings of the disciple. Diksha is a very serious commitment. So after Diksha, the instructions are to be rigidly followed by the disciple. Unless the disciple is tested, unless thorough guidance is there, such Diksha is of no use. So thus Prabhupada did not bother about the professional Diksha he received earlier, and the real initiation he prepared himself to take from Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj. And eventually, 10 years after seeing his spiritual master, 11 years after seeing his spiritual master, he got initiated. The story of the next 30 years of his life in India is the story of a single growing desire to preach Krishna consciousness worldwide as his spiritual master had ordered him. Abhay's family responsibilities and his preaching, however, seemed to conflict. His wife was religious at home but did not like the idea of working to spread Krishna consciousness. Even when Abhay attempted to hold gatherings in their home and speak from Bhagavad Gita, She preferred to stay upstairs drinking tea. Still, despite her obstinacy, Abhay remained patient and tried to include her. So, Prabhupada explains, my wife was very religious lady and she was willing to worship Krishna so that I can remain peaceful. But in this preaching, she was not interested. And I was always thinking about preaching, how to preach. So this is the difference between so many ordinary devotees and extraordinary devotees. And Prabhupada was, although a householder, sometimes the householders have misconception that preaching is meant for sannyasis and brahmacharis. And we are householders, we are busy, we have our business, we have our job, we have so many other responsibilities. How shall we be able to preach? But that is fact also. It was never in the history that grahasthas were expected to preach, because the grahasthas are usually very much attached to the household affairs, and it is very, very difficult for a person who is attached to bodily concept of life or to any mundane people and personalities to have any spiritual realization. Making spiritual advancement itself is difficult, what to speak of preaching others. But this is the special benediction of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and especially of that of Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj, and moreover Srila Prabhupada. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu requested in Chaitanya Charitamrita, he gave this instruction. So this is the, Srila Prabhupada mentions, this is the fundamental principle of our movement. Sthane sthitva shrutigata punsam tanuvan manobhir. Wherever you are, surrender completely unto Krishna, hear Krishna's message, and yare dekha tare kaha Krishna upadesh. Amar agyaya guru haya tara ei desh. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ordered everybody, especially every Indian. So different bodies have different capacities. The spider body has got very nice skill of making wonderful web. Rat body has got very nice drilling capacity. Bird has got very nice flying capacity. Fishes have swimming capacity. And like this, various species are endowed with various capacities. Similarly, the body which takes birth in this Bharatvarsha has got a unique capacity to make the spiritual understanding, spiritual life perfect. So it is not a suggestion, it is order of God. Amar Agyaya, by my order. God has told every Indian to become Guru. Now what kind of Guru? Guru does not mean Diksha Guru like Srila Prabhupada, Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj, Bhakti Vinod Thakur, Madhvacharya, great acharyas who can deliver living entities by their strength. No, Gurus are of various kinds. Diksha Guru, Shiksha Guru, Vartma Pradarshak Guru. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explained, Yare dekho tare kaho Krishna updesh. Preach Krishna consciousness to everybody. This is called Shiksha Guru. So everybody should spread this Shiksha and connect people to bona fide Diksha Guru, Srila Prabhupada. Currently, he is the current Acharya in the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya. So by order of Lord Chaitanya, every Indian is expected to preach. And unless somebody preaches, it is very, very difficult. It is not possible to keep away from the waves of Maya. So not just we have to follow Krishna consciousness, but we have to preach. And our acharyas, Bhakti Vinod Thakur, specially took this role so that grahasthas can take example from him. He was a householder and not ordinary householder, magistrate. You know, so many court cases and they are always pending. They are so busy in all these proceedings. But Bhakti Vinod Thakur was so very much expert. Even though he was holding the post of highest responsibility, he had many, many children, huge family. Still, he was preaching very widely, writing the books, sending the books everywhere, and doing publications, organizing many, many Namhata groups, and wonderful preaching he organized. So Prabhupada explains things have to be adjusted. But this thing is very important. In this age, if a person has to actually advance in spiritual life, then one has to preach. So Prabhupada understood this instruction of his spiritual master, and even though he was a householder, he was always thinking about preaching. And preaching is very simple. Prabhupada would call some people to his house and he would discuss Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and do some kirtan. As simple as that. But wife was not favorable. She would go upstairs and drink tea over there. And despite Prabhupada's best efforts to convince his wife was not very much agreeable to this preaching mission. As pharmaceutical salesman, Abhay did a lot of traveling by rail, especially in northern India. He thought that if he could become wealthy, he could then use his money for propagating the mission of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, and this thought encouraged him in his business. So, sometimes when we are new in spiritual life, we develop renunciation spirit. Oh, this life is very troublesome. Let me do something simple. Let me close my businesses or some other jobs. Let me do something simple and chant nicely, peacefully. But this may not be recommended. Prabhupada was doing his business, but what was the mood? So that if I become rich, I can push on this Krishna consciousness movement very nicely. And when other people meet as devotees, had some recollections, they would always tell Prabhupada's business partners that he was a very business-minded man. Although we were all God-fearing persons, but he was always talking business, how to increase profit. So externally, devotee could be always thinking about profit, thinking, working for business, but the aim is to push Krishna consciousness. So we should never try to seek a cozy, comfortable life. That never leads to any spiritual success. If a person can work very hard full-time in the movement, he should do that. Otherwise, from outside, person should work very hard and offer the results of the works to Krishna. In this way, hard work is very, very important. We should never shrug off from such hard work. That brings one spiritual perfection. Abhay was unable to travel with a spiritual master or to see him often, but whenever possible, he tried to time a business trip to Calcutta when his spiritual master was also there. Thus, over the next 4 years, he managed to see his spiritual master about a dozen times. Although Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati was so strong in argument against other philosophies that even his own disciples were cautious about approaching him if he were sitting alone. So Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj was such a strong preacher, his stand was so strong against all the other deviant philosophies that even Srila Prabhupada, Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj's disciples would be afraid of approaching him when he's sitting alone. He was very, very strong. And although Abhay's contact with him was quite limited, still Srila Bhaktisiddhanta would always treat him kindly. Prabhupada would later recall, sometimes my god brothers would criticize because I would talk a little freely with him, and they would quote this English saying, fools rush in where angels fear to tread. But I would think, fool? Well, maybe. But that is the way I am. My Guru Maharaj was always very, very affectionate to me. In 1935, on the occasion of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati's 62nd birthday, Abhay submitted a poem and an essay at a meeting of his god brothers in Bombay. The writings were well received and were consequently published in the Gaudiya Math magazine, The Harmonist. One of his god brothers informally dubbed Abhay as Kavi, learned poet. For Abhay, however, the glory of his first published writing came when the poem reached Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati and gave him pleasure. One stanza specifically made Srila Bhakti Siddhanta so happy that he made a point of showing it to all of his guests. And the lines are, Absolute is sentient, thou hast proved, impersonal calamity thou hast moved. Somehow, in this simple couplet, Abhay had captured the essence of his spiritual master's preaching against impersonalist philosophies. And Srila Bhakti Siddhanta took it as an indication of how well Abhay knew the mind of his Gurudev. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta also found Abhay's essay pleasing, and he showed it to some of his confidential devotees. Whatever he writes, he instructed the editor of The Harmonist, publish it. So thus we see, Srila Prabhupada met Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj only a dozen times in his life. But he was able to understand the mind of his spiritual master. So it is not easy. So it is mentioned in Chaitanya Charitamrita, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would sing and dance, just like now we recently had the Rath Yatra festival in Puri. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would dance in ecstasy in front of Lord Jagannath's cart, and he would sing some wonderful prayers. And hardly anybody was able to understand the meaning of those verses, why Mahaprabhu is reciting these lines. However, Srila Rupa Goswami, he also heard Chaitanya Mahaprabhu reciting these lines, and he composed another set of lines which reflected the mood of Lord Chaitanya, why he is singing those lines. And Rup Goswami in his cottage, he would write that on a piece of leaf, and he put it somewhere there in the thatched roof of the cottage, and he went to take bath. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would visit Rup Goswami, and he could not find Rup Goswami that day. He had gone to take bath. When he comes back, he sees Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He's in ecstasy reading those lines. He immediately lifts Rup Goswami, and then he becomes very, very happy, very glad. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu tells all the devotees how he could know my mind. My mind is so confidential. He's Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. And how somebody can know my mind? And Rup Goswami knows. Nobody knows this thing. Then Swarup Damodar Goswami, he told, this means you are very, very merciful to him. So for ordinary devotees, it is very difficult to understand God. And for pure devotees, it is very difficult for Krishna to hide himself. So it is told when the Ras Leela dance was happening, and the gopis became little proud because Krishna wanted to give them special feeling, and they all thought Krishna is dancing just with me. And as soon as there is pride in the heart, then we lose our Krishna consciousness. So Krishna vanished from the scene, and all the gopis became very mad. Oh, Krishna has gone. Where Krishna? They all started searching Krishna. And Krishna went to another place, and when he saw gopis are coming, Krishna immediately took a Vishnu form. And the gopis saw, they became very glad. Oh, see, Krishna is standing there, and they approached closer. And then they saw actually it is not Krishna, it is Lord Vishnu standing there. They asked Lord Vishnu, they offered the respects, have you seen Krishna? Where is our Krishna? So then Lord Vishnu told he has gone this way. Then they continued on that way. But when Srimati Radharani came, Lord Krishna has so much love for Srimati Radharani, he could not maintain his four-armed Vishnu form, and immediately came to his original two-armed Krishna form. And this similar pastime happened with Ramanand Rai. Ramanand Rai was able to understand that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna himself. So for a conditioned soul, it is so difficult to understand Krishna. Krishna covers himself with Yog Maya, and for a pure devotee, Krishna cannot cover himself. There is so much love for his pure devotee in the heart of Krishna. So only those people who are very, very advanced in spiritual life, who has pleased the spiritual master, they are able to understand the mind of spiritual master. So Prabhupada writes in Chaitanya Charitamrita, we also had similar favor by our spiritual master. And he told this disciple, he knows my mind. So thus we can understand, in order to become such an intimate associate of the spiritual master, it is not important to have physical association. And all the sannyasis were there, and they were always every day staying and moving around with Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj, but they could not become successful in understanding his mind, his mood. Prabhupada later recalled, Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj would many times think, even if one person understands my mood, my preaching mood, my mission is successful. But they could not. Only Prabhupada could. So thus this intimacy with the spiritual master is achieved not actually by physical association. This thing is very important to understand. So many times people wonder how we can associate with Prabhupada. So Prabhupada explains there are two kinds of presence, Vani and Vapu. Vapu means physical presence, and Vani means association by words. So Prabhupada would always tell, it is the association. Physical presence is temporary. It may not always be appreciable, but real association means association with Vani. So Prabhupada, even though he was not able to understand Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj, but he was always hearing him with rapt attention. And this pleased his spiritual master like anything, and he became his most confidential associate. So Prabhupada is now also living, and he is living in his books. Prabhupada told, I will never die. I will live in my books and you will utilize. Thus it is very, very important to read the books. In that way we are associating with Prabhupada. And eventually we can aspire, some of us will be able to understand the actual mood of Prabhupada and help him in his preaching mission. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj also found Abhay's essay pleasing and he showed it to some of his confidential devotees. Whatever he writes, he instructed the editor of the Harmonist publish it. One of Abhay's most significant meetings with his spiritual master took place in Vrindavan in 1935. So in 1932 he got initiated. This is after 3 years. Now he is initiated disciple and he is his spiritual master in the holy land of Vrindavan. Abhay was no longer a newcomer, but a bona fide disciple doing his best within the context of a householder's life. One day, as Srila Bhaktisiddhanta was walking by the sacred lake of Radhakund with Abhay and several other disciples, he began speaking confidentially to Abhay. Some of his leading disciples had been quarreling, he said, and this distressed him very much. The disciples had been fighting over who would use various rooms and facilities at the Gaudiya Math headquarters in Calcutta. If they were quarreling even now, what would they do after their spiritual master passed away? Abhay had no part in these matters and did not even know the details of what was involved. But as he listened to his spiritual master, he also became distressed. Deeply concerned, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta said to Abhay, "There will be fire, Aguna Jwalibe. One day there would be fire in Calcutta Gaudiya Math, and that fire of the party interest would spread and destroy." Abhay heard but did not know what to make of it. "It would be better," said Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, "to take the marble from the walls of the temple to secure money. If I could do this and print books, that would be better." Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati then said directly to Abhay, "I had a desire to print some books. If you ever get money, print books." Standing by Radhakund and beholding his spiritual master, Abhay felt these words deeply enter his life. If you ever get money, print books. So later we see how Prabhupada actually implemented these teachings. So Prabhupada did not have money. Once he retired, we will see eventually how Prabhupada retires to fulfill the mission of a spiritual master of taking this knowledge to the West. And Prabhupada goes to the West practically penniless. Somehow he is able to survive by selling books, Bhagavatam. So this is called Acharya. Prabhupada himself sold books and he encouraged his disciples to distribute them in the same fashion. Prabhupada had firm faith. He simply went with Srimad Bhagavatam without money. And Prabhupada was somehow managing his monthly expenses with that. And eventually, when Prabhupada was sent some very sincere devotees and movement got some traction, got some money, the first thing which Prabhupada did was he published a lot of books. And there was no idea. There was not much money still in the movement and disciples had to go out and they had to do jobs. Full-time dedicated disciples, they were going out and doing jobs because there was no means, there was no idea how to run the temple. But all the money, 10% of their salary, they would offer to the maintenance of the temple. But even though Prabhupada got some money, Prabhupada used that money to publish book and the temples got stocked with the books, teachings of Lord Chaitanya and other books. And disciples were wondering, people hardly take our Back to Godhead magazines. What to speak of these big books? Who would take them? But Prabhupada told, I blindly follow my Guru Maharaj. My Guru Maharaj told, whenever you have money, you print books. So I have done that. Now you please plan how to distribute it so that I can publish it further. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta departed from the mortal world in December 1936. So this was in 1935. Prabhupada was given the order that whenever you get money, print books. And 1 year later, Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj, he wound up his manifest pastimes. 1 month before his departure, Abhay wrote him a letter. He was thinking that as a grahastha, he could not fully serve his spiritual master and he wanted to know what more he could do. So Prabhupada writes a very touching letter. So Prabhupada was always thinking that I am very unfortunate, and Prabhupada wrote to Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj that your sannyasis, other disciples, they are serving you full time very nicely, but I am a householder, I cannot do much. So please let me know, is there anything specific that I can do? So Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj replied, I am fully confident that you can explain in English our thoughts and arguments to the people who are not conversant with the language. So you preach this message in the English language, and that will do good to you and to your audience, to all the people who help you. So Prabhupada was able to recollect this is the same instruction which Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj gave them in their very first meeting. So this confirmed that this is the desire of my Guru Maharaj, what he expects from me. In the first meeting he told me you preach in English. Now again he's telling me you preach in English. Abhay at once recognized this to be the same instruction he had received at his first meeting with Srila Bhaktisiddhanta in 1922. He took it as a confirmation. He now had no doubt as to the purpose of his life. So the next 30 years of Srila Prabhupada were just contemplation. Prabhupada was always thinking. So many times people ask the object of meditation. So this is actually a very important point. And those of you who have heard our sessions or who have read Bhagavad Gita, we can understand the object of meditation is not some chakras or the middle of the eyebrow or some air, some candlelight or earth, sun, moon, some other planets, XYZ. The object of meditation, the scriptures mention, is the form of Krishna. Dhyana avasthita tadgatena manasa pashyantiyam yoginaha. Always a person should see the form of Krishna within the heart. That is the way of always keeping oneself pure, not getting contaminated from the material forces. All the activity should be planned in such a way to attain this meditation. This is called samadhi, always thinking of lotus feet of Krishna within the heart. But how to attain this stage, this people do not know. For this, a very important meditation one must perform, as we discussed in one of the sessions of our Bhagavad Gita series. When one disciple asked Srila Prabhupada, so there is a very systematic process that a person has to follow. Not that directly you are thinking always of Krishna, you have to grow progressively. Spiritual master, then Panchatattva, Nityanand Prabhu, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So he was asking, he was a very sincere devotee, Makhan Lal, and he was asking that Prabhupada, we are worshipping Gaur Nitai in our temple. And I'm always trying to worship Nityanand Prabhu and trying to meditate upon Nityanand Prabhu. Because as it is told in the scriptures and as you have revealed, without worshipping Nityanand Prabhu, nobody can attain the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But some of my other God brothers, they are criticizing me that you are not understanding Lord Chaitanya, Supreme Personality of Godhead. So I'm confused. Am I right? I please want to understand this. So then Prabhupada told, don't try to become artificially Krishna conscious. So person may think, oh, I have to sit and meditate upon lotus feet of Krishna always. They have to be there in my heart. So let me just sit in the temple entire day, keep on thinking about it. That is not possible. Oh, I understood. Chanting is the way. When we chant, then I have read in the Vedas, by chanting, the holy name of the Lord reveals the form of Krishna, pastimes of Krishna. Yes, that is also a fact. But there is further instruction. And the further instruction is, nobody can chant purely the name of Krishna. Unless pure chanting is there, by chanting, we will not be able to think of the form of Krishna, the pastimes of Krishna within the heart. So pure chanting is required. And who can do pure chanting? That is further mentioned. Nobody can purely chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra unless one becomes an experienced expert preacher. So the meditation which has to happen, that Prabhupada further guided him in the letter is, you please pray to Nityanand Prabhu that please engage me, help me to render service to my Guru Maharaj. So this is the object of meditation. When the disciple is always thinking of pushing the mission, always thinking to carry out the specific order of the spiritual master, that is the real meditation that a person has to do. And all success in the spiritual life is the result of this meditation. So this is the prime object of meditation for the disciple, which is very, very practical. And when in such a manner, this is the only object of meditation, the instructions of the spiritual master. And Prabhupada told, when the disciples asked Prabhupada, that Prabhupada, there is no difference between your form and yourself personality. So Prabhupada told, yes, on absolute platform, just like Krishna and Krishna's form, there is no difference. Spiritual master and spiritual master's form also, there is no difference. So when you feel my absence, you keep my picture in the places where I would sit. And then Prabhupada told, yes, spiritual master is present in his picture, but he is more present in his instructions. A person can feel greater association when he's meditating on the instructions than just on the picture. Picture has to be meditated upon, but that meditation would be successful when a person is always meditating upon the specific instructions of the spiritual master. So thus Srila Prabhupada, understanding all these secrets of spiritual life by the mercy of his spiritual master and Krishna, Prabhupada's next meditation was always this: how to fulfill, how to preach in English, how to go to West. And Prabhupada was always meditating, trying various means right in the grahastha, in his household life. And then we see how eventually he started Back to Godhead magazine much before he took Vanaprastha, Sannyas. And he was always trying to go here and there, trying to go to Japan, various other places, trying to go outside the country, but success was not coming to him. So we can also try to, this is a great secret of spiritual life. Let us try to beg mercy of Lord Chaitanya, Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj and Srila Prabhupada, that we also can become expert in this fundamental meditation and make our spiritual life successful. Thank you so much for hearing for today. And now is the time for another nice revelation. This revelation is the winner of yesterday's quiz. As you would have seen in between the session also, the winner of yesterday's quiz is Bhakt Nakul Jasrotia. So big applause for him. Krishna is very merciful. He has inspired the devotees to give this transcendental gift to you. So today also we'll be asking another question. I hope you have heard the session very, very nicely. But there is one important point. Please do not answer now in the live chat. We'll be closing this video. And once we close it, you please write the answer in the comments of the video. I repeat, now the comments are disabled because the session is live. We'll close the session. You write the answer in the comments as comments to this video, not in the live chat. And the first 50 people who give the right answer, we'll be again choosing lucky devotee from them. Keep your YouTube notifications on. We will reply in the comment who has won this transcendental gift for today's quiz. So the question for today is, which was the place in the Vrindavan Parikrama where Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj became very much impressed by the hearing capacity of Srila Prabhupada? I repeat the question. At which place of Vrindavan Parikrama was Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj very much got impressed by hearing capacity of Srila Prabhupada? Please write the name of the place after we close this video in the comment section. We'll meet tomorrow again. Please keep on chanting Hare Krishna. Thank you so much.